All right. What is going on, you guys? It's Blaze over here, Blue Chip Athletic Club podcast, coming to you on May the 31st, 2025. And we're going to do something a little bit different today and talk through a little bit about my journey, my day-to-day job that is outside of what I do here in the health and wellness space in the Coast Guard, which will be kind of exciting to not have kind of a script and just go a little bit off scripts, go a little bit off and talk a little bit about our personal lives, some updates and things that are kind of happening. And then just the way that I have gotten to where I am here 30 years after being born on old planet Earth. But before we get into that, always shouting out our partners over at First Form. If you guys need any sort of supplements, swag, you name it, we do. We send out free samples of their protein powders. We work with those guys and they've done great, been great hosts to us and been really, really good to us as well. So make sure you guys go and hit them up, and we'll leave links in the bio for any sort of their stuff and some of our favorites down there too. So, all right, without further ado, let's talk real quick life update. I guess we'll start off with that. Chelsea and I officially signed the papers to be homeowners for the second time. So I don't know how many of you guys know this, probably none of you, because I don't really talk about it, but I was very fortunate moving into California in the winter of 2020. I kind of like stumbled upon a house where the financing fell through. The person that was trying to buy it before, I basically ended up being able to slide into the housing market and scoop up like what I thought was a pretty good deal on the house that I'm currently living in here in California. And we are set to move here to Florida down in the Tampa, St. Petersburg area this summer. Actually, we are picking up actually less than 30 days from now. And going to be hitting the road out east, spending some time with family up in New Hampshire, and then driving down to Florida, which is crazy. And hopefully making a couple stops along the way. Actually trying to hit up our guys over at First Form and get in and get a workout in with my boy Sage. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, so a lot of stuff that's happening. But anyway, life update is that we ended up signing the papers on home number 2, home number 1, obviously being here in California, home number 2 being down in Florida. And man, to get a little bit real with you guys real fast, I have been saving for that moment since I probably closed on the house here in California, because I know typically they say, and real estate people, and I definitely would not call myself a real estate person, just a prudent saver, I guess. People say that the second house that you buy is the toughest, or one of the toughest, especially if your first one, you probably haven't paid it down a ton. Maybe you got in at a weird time, you weren't able to refinance, whatever. And again, making the decision whether you're going to sell your house or rent your house that you currently have, and then looking at other houses. Do you need a bigger one? Do you need a smaller one? I mean, holy shit! Everybody has an opinion. I'm not sure what the right opinion is. What we decided to do, was to go with renting our house here in California. So in about a month from now, somebody else will be traversing these walls behind me, living in here, and hopefully that goes well. I've never been a landlord before. I have no idea how it's going to go. I do not claim to know everything about anything really. So being a landlord for the first time, having to deal with tenants, especially living across the country, is going to be a challenge to say the least. But excited to kind of to embark on that journey and a new chapter, and then also be able to make a new place home. Really fortunate. There's the house that we got into down in Florida, I almost kind of stumbled upon. It was like, I'm driving around the area and I'm like, oh, I want to go check out this town. And driving by a sign, and I see a sign for an open house. I make a quick turn over into the neighborhood, and then lo and behold, like there's a house with an open house sign. I pull in. There's probably 10 minutes left of the open house. I think I pulled in at like 2:50, and the open house closed at 3 in the afternoon. It's just one couple, I think older couple that's in there talking to the real estate agent. I pull in and, I actually was wearing something very similar to this. I had like a tank top on and a hat. I think I was wearing like Birks and workout shorts. I think, bless her heart, I think the real estate agent kind of like ripped me off a little bit. She was like, oh, who's this like random jabroni Mahoney here? Doesn't belong, looking at this house. But we actually started talking with one another and got her information, walked around the house. I was like, man, this neighborhood's great. The house is a little old, a little dated, but I think that, can make this work. And the reason, ironically enough, that it didn't pop up on my Zillow like beforehand is that they had an HOA fee. And I like immediately was like, oh, no HOA fees on my kind of like search criteria and filters. The HOA fee turned out to be like $2 every month to pay for flowers at the front of the community. So, my bad for, I guess, not looking at that. But yeah, I get in there and then we submit an offer. Thankfully it gets accepted. And then now we're in a position where we just sign on the dotted line. For anybody who's ever signed for a house, this feeling. Towards the end of all the documents, they like flip through. And there's a section that shows if you did a 30-year mortgage, which we did, all 360 payments that you have to make over those 30 years. And it's line item by line item. And it's probably like, I don't know, 2-3 pages of stuff. Right. And I see the amount of interest. Oh my gosh. On the first page for the first like 5 years, is just asinine. I don't understand how like it's allowed to be that way. Oh, but it definitely hurts. So yeah, just don't look at that. If you're about to go buy a house, do yourself a favor. Don't look at that page. It will bring you to, yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Just don't look at that page. But we're excited. We're planning like our road trip. Like I said, going to hopefully stop over at First Form, maybe see one of my friends and clients up in the Chicago area, and then go spend some time with family out in New Hampshire, and then bang down to Florida after that, which is great. And yeah, definitely something that we're ready to do. I think we're ready to move. We're ready to do something new, be somewhere new, back on the East Coast, closer to the majority of our families, both of us. So I think it'll be a good shift for us there, like for, personal lives and just kind of getting into a new job and a new space. So brings me to my, I guess, point of the podcast today, which is like, how did I get here? How did Blaze, the military pilot, turn into a online fitness coach, turn into a coach in general? Why the hell is anybody, if you are listening to this, why are you listening to this in the first place? Why do I have a podcast? I guess I can kind of get into all those things, but I want to rewind a little bit, give a little bit of a backstory and background on me, because I don't think that I have done that really on this show before. So I grew up in a Coast Guard family. My dad served in the Coast Guard for 33 years. He actually just retired last summer. Godly, he's doing it way too long. If you ever listen to this, you should have got out sooner, I think, but we moved around a ton growing up. I think I did the math before, and it was like 9 times. We had moved all over the place. I was very fortunate though. We spent my adolescence, middle and high school in Maryland. So I kind of claim Maryland as the old stomping grounds. And when people ask you where you're from, it's easier to say Maryland rather than say, oh, all over the place, because then you just got to give your life story, which, gets a little bit exhausting, which is why I'll just refer them to this podcast from now on. I'll just be like, go listen to this, and this will tell you exactly how we got where we got. But so moving around a ton, finally settled up in Maryland, went to middle and high school there. And then I went to, after seeing this whole progression, I would say, even backing up a little bit more, we were living in Connecticut at the time, and this story is relevant, I promise. I was 6 years old, I think, and it's around Christmas, and there was a Christmas party that we hosted at our house. Now, I don't know why or how the military had this venue, this house, but there was a duplex in the town called Old Saybrook. And you guys can look up the Old Saybrook Lighthouse. Like I swear this was our old house. Is unreal. Old Saybrook Lighthouse is like an 80-foot tall lighthouse right there on the Long Island Sound. And we were like in a military owned duplex, like right at the base of that lighthouse on the same property that was owned by the Coast Guard. It was nuts. Had like a basketball court on it, like a private beach. Katharine Hepburn lived in the same neighborhood. We had no business being there, seeing as we were definitely not in anywhere close to the same tax bracket as these guys. But living there was really neat because Coast Guard Air Station Cape Cod was pretty close. So I didn't know that, obviously, as a 6-year-old, nor did I care. But we're hosting this, Christmas party, and there's a ton of kids over at our place, and all this stuff. And they had coordinated a Coast Guard helicopter to land at our house and like give out presents. So, we hear this whoosh, 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 whoosh of the rotor blades. Kids run outside, myself included. And I see this like orange and white helicopter land on our basketball court. And then Santa gets out of the helicopter and hands out like all these presents to all these kids. And I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, this is like, and then I looked over and I was like, what are these guys doing? Like, and then there's a couple of pilots sitting there, obviously. And I'm like, that is the job I want to do. That is what I want to get. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to work towards. And, I'm very different, I guess, fortunate as a kid. When I was 6, I decided like the direction that I was going to go. And, very thankful that I was able to kind of pursue that. But, we make it to the position where it comes time to apply for colleges. And that's the school that I ended up choosing, was the Coast Guard Academy. And so that I could pursue that goal of being a pilot. And at the time I wanted to be a rotary or helicopter pilot in the Coast Guard. So went there, did that. I studied mechanical engineering for 4 years. Was very fortunate to be able to play sports in school. I played lacrosse. I actually went to a couple rugby practices, but realized that I was not going to be able to do that and play lacrosse because lacrosse had a fall season. And I really wanted to lean into doing that and being a big part of that team. So made the decision that maybe save my spine and go play lacrosse full time. So did that for 4 years, and then graduated and went to a Coast Guard ship that was in Charleston, South Carolina. So without kind of belaboring that, the boat is about a 400-foot long boat. And the way that the cycle worked is I was an engineer on the ship, and we basically would go out for 3 months, and then we'd be in for 2-3 months. And that cycle kind of repeated itself over the course of my entire tenure there. As I started to get my feet wet in that community, in that program, I was like, hey, I joined the Coast Guard to go to flight training. I think that this is what I want to do. That I think that's the best thing for me to do that. I don't think that the lifestyle of somebody who's gone for that long or that like kind of frequency of life was going to be something that was for me. So, after a little over a year of time, going through, the Panama Canal and busting drug runners that are bringing cocaine into the United States, on a boarding team, all kitted out and everything, bulletproof vests and guns and flashlights and helmets and this and that, which again was super fun, super cool as a 22-year-old kid. But realizing, like, what do I want to do when I grow up? Which I guess I don't really know still, so don't let me fool you and say that that's something I have figured out. But I decided that flight training was the thing that I wanted to try and pursue. So I apply for flight school. I get picked up to go to flight training, and I go to the to Naval Flight School. A lot of people don't know, and it's probably because there's not that many of us. But there's been in and around in the year 2025. On the order of about 5,000 Coast Guard pilots. Now there maybe is like 5,100 or so now. But when I graduated flight training in 2020, I was number like 49 something or 40, it might have even been 46 something. So very, very few that have kind of gone the same path. But we all go to naval flight school. With every Marine Corps pilot and Navy pilot that's ever lived has been there. Started off in Pensacola, and then we're there for about a year and a half or so, and then I moved to Corpus Christi, Texas, when I selected to be in a they call it advanced flight training, which is when you kind of get a little bit more specialized, and it's where kind of the break happens, where you either go rotary wing or you go fixed wing, and then you learn how to fly multi-engine aircraft. So we went to Corpus Christi, Texas. Basically lived there. I call that like a business trip. I was only there for about 6 or 8 months, but that's actually where I met Chelsea through a mutual friend. And then I moved up to California to fly the Coast Guard plane that I fly now, which is called the C-27, the Mighty Spartan. Ironically enough, the plane is currently, at least as of today, scheduled to sunset in about 3 years. We'll see if that ends up happening, i.e. that the plane's going to go away and they'll have to end up going to fly something else. But we'll see kind of how that goes. But the plane is now located in Sacramento and in Clearwater, Florida. So I made a strategic choice to be in the two, I think, best places that I could be in the Coast Guard, in my opinion, between those two bases, and I went to fly the C-27. So a normal day for me, I guess, is popping in to work 7:30 to about 3 in the Coast Guard. Maybe some days, I guess, 3:30. Some days it's a little closer to 2. It'll depend. And then we also stand like a 24-hour. They call it like alert duty, which essentially is like a fire station where like we're on call for urgent search and rescue, offshore stuff. Sometimes they'll launch you for law enforcement style missions. You'll fly like fisheries enforcement as well out here on the West Coast for those types of things too. But that's primarily, I guess, what the job is. And actually, over the course of the last year, I have finished what they call an aviation engineering. It's almost like an on-the-job training program to be an aviation engineer, which essentially is like a project manager. You're managing the people that are working on the aircraft, on the hangar, and then kind of helping schedule and support the guys that are scheduling maintenance, getting parts, communicating, other things. I like to say, like, it sounds a lot more difficult maybe than it truly is. It's really just calling people and asking them where your parts are, and then trying to make sure that you're taking care of people that are kind of working for you and working with you. But over the course of the last year or so, I finished my on-the-job training syllabus so that I can be the person who's doing that job now in Clearwater, while also flying the plane. So staying in my aircraft, continuing to fly that, and then moving into Clearwater. So a little bit of the background of kind of who I am and what we do. But geez, I could just kind of rattle off all types of stuff. But I think maybe we'll do like a story, or there I was. I don't know. I guess the best way to do these, and it's kind of ironic and funny. Like, pop on here and I can chat a ton about health and wellness stuff and kind of go off the rails. And I feel like people are probably going to be more interested in the Coast Guard story, because it's something a little bit different from someone popping on and talking about health and wellness and doing burpees and nutrition habits. But I guess I can interject and talk about how I got into coaching here with that too, and being part of that path, because it's very different from flying planes, obviously, and managing people in an engineering, managerial, project management style of way. So when I graduated from the Coast Guard Academy and played lacrosse there, I knew that I didn't want to get too far away from the game of lacrosse. So I moved into Charleston, like I had mentioned before, and was like, oh, hey, there's a college here that has a team, and it was the Citadel. Now, the Citadel's team, I don't know right now if they're NCAA team. I believe they were a club team when I was helping out, but I basically like hit up the coach and I sent him like a resume. I was like, hey, this is what I did. This is what I'm doing now. Like, are you cool if I come and coach with you? And they're like, oh, for sure. Like, come out. We could use a hand. So I went out there. I coached with those guys for a season. Obviously, when I could, when I was in one of those import periods on the ship, which again kind of contributed to my decision to want to go to flight training and stay more connected to the game. But that was like my first time coaching the game of lacrosse truly, which kind of happened at that point. And then the next move that I made once I moved from Charleston to Florida, I actually took more of like we'll call like a head coaching role, which really was just whenever I could be there. I was running practices for a U14 kind of program, and then actually getting into some one-on-one training with some of my like more advanced kids over there in the Pensacola area, which was super cool. I mean, like, hey, you're coming into a town, don't really know anybody. You Google like lacrosse near me, and then it was really like that. It was like, hey, come out here. We could use the help. Blah blah blah. The guy who was running the team eventually was just like, hey, dude, like, it's your team. Let me know what you need me to do. I'll set up cones. I'll yell at kids and tell them to do sprints or whatever. But he was a football guy, and basically let me kind of take the reins on the team, which was exciting and scary as a 23-year-old and not really knowing how to coach or deal with 14-year-olds. I still don't know how to do that. But it was really, really fun to kind of get involved with that coaching thing. And I also was an official there in Florida. So I think all this kind of like leading to my quick business trip out to Corpus Christi, Texas. No lacrosse out there. So I was not doing anything besides learning my plane, having fun with my friends and playing sports as much as I could. And then when I moved up to California, my now wife was not here yet. So naturally I was trying to figure out, I don't sit very well. For the people that know me, I don't like sit on my hands. For example, today, Chelsea is actually out of town. It's Saturday and 4:00, and I'm recording this and talking into doing this thing. But I get up to California and I'm like, man, I want to get back into the game and back involved with the lacrosse team, because it had been 6 or 8 months since I've been able to do that. And it was something that I missed. So again, good old Google machine, popped on there, found the Sacramento Aces up here in California, asked them if I could come out and coach. I basically had a brewery interview with the Frank Resiteritz, good friend of mine now, which I'm incredibly thankful for, and all of his community of people out here, and was able to kind of continue to coach with those guys. And through that, I really started to think like, hey, what else could I do besides coaching kids? Because coaching kids is great. I think that I'm always going to have a passion for that. But I started thinking about like, man, like coaching maybe adults or in a more official capacity. I say official, but official capacity might be fun too. So I decided I'm going to go and look around to see if I could get a job working at a gym. So I actually walked over to Orange Theory. I took my free Orange Theory class. And what's funny, as this camera's wigging out on me, what's funny is I did not tell them that I was almost like taking the class to see if it was a good fit for me. But I did that. I took the class, and then I felt very corporate. It felt probably because it is. Again, nothing against Orange Theory or any other big box gym similar to that, but it felt very corporate. It felt really, I don't know, like it wasn't me. And I kind of recognized that, and I'm glad that I did, because I then walked into a mom and pa gym right around the corner, or ma and ma gym, I guess now, Urban Flex Fitness, which is now Urban Flex and Flow in Sacramento, in the Carmichael area, if you're familiar with that. And man, I walked into this place and I had zero coaching experience outside of coaching youth athletes in lacrosse. I had zero credential, and the owner of the gym, Bean Hera, decides that, and shout out to her. Geez Louise, I don't know where I'd be without her as a mentor in my life. But she like, let me come in and coach there, which has kind of like trickled down and led me to now doing this whole thing. So my Coast Guard career, I think, has has lended itself, and I've definitely gotten super off topic because I was supposed to tell some sea stories and stuff, but started talking about how did I land here as an online fitness coach for you guys. But yeah, just lending itself to like taking a chance and walking into a door and asking somebody and making them, I guess, say no to you. Putting myself out there has been something that I would say in my adolescence and my youth, is something that I'm really thankful that I had to do growing up, because without that, I don't think I would, be okay with being the new guy. And ironically enough, if I stay somewhere a little bit too long, I think I get a little bit antsy, which is probably why I'm ready to move from California. My toxic trait is I can't be somewhere for more than 4 years, I guess, before I feel like I need to move. But I think I'll go back. Let's rewind. Let's talk sea stories. Oh man. Okay. So maybe we'll start like as far back as cadet summers. Maybe be a good one to start. So while you're at the Coast Guard Academy, there's a very interesting kind of like thing that occurs where between semesters, they essentially send you out into the real world. So imagine like if you're in like electrician school and you're out there and you're like, oh, I'm going to learn to be an electrician, and you're at a trade school. And then they're like, okay, during the summertime, you're going to go shadow Billy's electrical. And then they're just going to throw you into the shit as a new electrician, which is exactly how it is for us, except you're going out in the service. And then also, oh, by the way, they're like hundreds of people that are you'll end up seeing, working with, and that you'll directly work with after the fact. So it'd be like if you knew that you were going to go work with 100 of the same electricians and they threw you in there and like, okay, dude, here you go. That's kind of how it was for us. So I finished my freshman year at school, and then over the summer we actually made nationals for lacrosse in our last year as a club program. So I got to go go play that for a week, which actually delayed my summer training by a little bit. But after that, I went up to Alaska to meet the boat that I was gonna be on for the next like 4 or 5 weeks, basically a little over a month. And what's crazy is that, when you're out there, and I don't know how many of you guys have seen Deadliest Catch or any of that stuff that happens up in the Bering, but the water up there is absolutely no joke. Oh man, it's brutal. So the waves are huge, and I didn't really know that. I've seen Deadliest Catch, and I was like, oh, I don't really have a great idea of where we're going to be sailing, what we're going to be doing. So we're out there sailing, in the middle of nowhere, a couple 100 miles off the coast of Russia at one point, doing all these things. And the Coast Guard has this really interesting tradition that they call a line crossing ceremony, where if you transit over a line of demarcation in the world that is of relevance, so hey, you cross the equator, you cross the international date line, you cross X, Y, or Z place, you go to the Arctic, they're gonna have a ceremony that is officially voluntary, for you to become almost like you're hazed into being like a member of the club who has crossed this thing, and you get this certificate that you can hang on your wall, and stack them up where nobody really cares except for you. But we're going over there, and we are finding out that we're going to be ending up crossing the international date line into the Eastern Hemisphere. So we're sailing essentially due west until we go into the Eastern Hemisphere. And I didn't necessarily know what that meant at the time, but we had to have a line crossing ceremony, which basically is like a week of you just being hazed and given the given the riot act until you until you have your kind of final event. So here's some things that happen on the boat. We'll say you would be given like this list for a scavenger hunt. You would have to find like 4 buttons to a shirt, 12 paper clips, and $1.22 exactly, where, you know, the dollar is made up of quarters, and there's like 22 pennies, and you have to like bring, and they're like, hey, and they like announce it over an intercom over the entire boat. Like, hey, you have 4 minutes and 32 seconds to go find these things and bring them to this spot. And then you're just like, what? And then you're out running all over the place. You're going to so-and-so's desk trying to run and find these things. And what that did is it gave you immunity to where they won't like spot shave your head during the ceremony, which nobody knew that was going to be a thing that they ended up doing anyway. But the all the types of stuff like that happened kind of all week. You know, it's just ways that they wanted to kind of mess with you, in like a good old boys style of way. You know, I would say it's not quite as bad as like rushing a fraternity, although I have not done that. But I would assume that it's, you know, similar in that way, to where you get to kind of earn your stripes. Well, the day of the actual line crossing ceremony starts at like 4 a.m, and everybody knew that the day was happening. The whole boat kind of has to plan for that. People are going to be gone. You're going to have to like rotate around to figure things out, and the boat actually gets set up for this very event, you know. So so the day starts at like 4 a.m, and they like bring you outside, and they start like yelling at you and making you do push-ups, which whatever. I was like 19 at the time. The 40-year-old dude with the huge beer gun next to me, yelling at me to do push-up. I'm like, yeah, dude, like, sure. It takes, you know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. We're out there, and then we come downstairs to eat breakfast. And breakfast is like food dyed food. It's like they take a egg and they make it purple, and like I think like the pancakes were like green, and like it was like as if somebody took a normal breakfast, and like took like a paintbrush of like Easter egg colors and just was like and like made everything like a certain color. It was absolutely ridiculous. To the point where a lot of people like didn't even eat, because they were like, I can't like get my brain to wrap around the fact that this is not what a sausage looks like. This is not what eggs are supposed to look like, any of these sort of things, right? So we finish up with that, and then they call us out to some spot on the boat. I don't remember where it was. And you're with like a group of people. You end up essentially on like a team, I believe, of like 5. And they bring you into this room where there's like 4 dudes standing there or sitting down, and they're trying to auction you. They're like buying you, almost like you're like a cattle farmer. And they're like betting on you to do whatever, I don't know, on the day, like perform the best or whatever the events kind of are. It's all kind of just a big dumb game anyway. So they're like, hey, just do something as you walk into this room. And I think that we ended up singing karaoke in the room, and somebody bought us for like $4 and a shoelace, I think was like the running. We were like bought for like the second most amount of money or monetary value from any other team, which is just absurd, right? So we end up going, we have this sponsor person who ended up buying us as a team. All the money went to like our ship's like fun money fund. And we end up going through, they call it like I forget what it was called, the gauntlet or whatever it was at the you know, midpoint of the day. And this is where things kind of get hairy, right? So they file you into one spot of the ship where you're starting this thing. They blindfold you. So you get a blindfold put on, and then you're walking like arm on the shoulders of the person in front of you. And you get well, not everybody did. If you had haircut immunity, they called it, you didn't. But thankfully, I don't know whether they were afraid or just knew that I just had these lovely locks, but or maybe they just pitied us. But they did not spot shave my head, but they definitely spot shaved a lot of people's heads. Basically just taking the buzzers and just going like whoop whoop whoop, and then like you're walking through the side of the boat. They take like peanut butter out of jars, and we're like wiping it down on you, so you have like peanut butter like all over you. And the next part of it we had to dive through was called the whale's belly. Oh, this thing is still gnarly. So what they essentially do is they bring a tarp and they put a tarp out into like a big pool. And then they took like all the food like from breakfast and like the night before, and they like dump it in there with like old milk and like all this types of stuff. And then you have to like dive through it. So they're like, oh, you have to get through the whale's belly. Remember, we're still blindfolded. And they're like, oh, you need to go through, like, dive, or else you're not going to make it. And obviously you're like, I don't know. And then they like walk you up and your feet are at the verge of this like elevated thing. You're like, I don't know what I'm doing. And they're like, dive. So you end up like kind of like doing one of these slow, methodical moves through. And then obviously you get the smell and all the all the fantastic aromas of old food and spoiled milk as you're diving through this thing. My buddy, actually, Dan, as we were jumping through it, definitely almost yacked in that thing, and I would be surprised if nobody did. But we end up getting out of that thing, and this is the point where they actually took our blindfolds off, which was kind of nice because we hadn't seen anything that happened up to this point. And on the back of the boat, we're finally at the back of the boat, and I can vividly remember this, that there's a huge trough of water essentially back there, and they took balls of Crisco, like lard, made them into almost like a snowball, and then put like 10 of them into this like big water trough, and you had to bob for balls of Crisco. So like bobbing for apples, you had to like go down and like try and like grab one with your mouth. Oh my god, just absolutely brutal. And then the last part of it, we climb this like ladder, and the guys take the, on a boat, for those of you that don't know, if you get caught on fire or something happens like that, you're the firefighting crew. Like you have to like have the ability to fight fires and stuff. So there's fire hoses all over the boat. And one of them was strung out on the back of the ship so that they could like hose you down after you dove through the whale's belly. I'm sure it was just so that like we didn't track all of that nonsense into the ship. But we're basically standing there in like a line. Everybody's all next to each other, and we just get blasted with this fire hose. And meanwhile, the water is frigid. We're in like Alaskan waters, northern part of the Pacific. Not warm. I'll say not warm. Maybe it trained me for the cold plunge nowadays, but oh my gosh. So we get blasted off, and then at the very end, one of the guys on the boat is deemed like he's dressed up like an absolute barbarian. Big like fake long beard, long fake hair, a big trident, sitting there on like a dumb like made up chair. And they're like, I'm King Neptune. You made it through the whale's belly. They like talk about your thing, and then you had to recite some dumb saying that you were supposed to be taught before, and you're supposed to say it all at once. And we do this saying, and then chalk it up, and the day is over. But man, what a whirlwind of a day that becomes when you're out there in the middle of the Bering Sea, which is not flat waters by any means. And getting after that, so we'll do a little teaser of a story, a little peek behind the curtain today, for a little bit something different that's not just health and wellness related. A little bit of peek of some of the past stuff that I had or I have been fortunate, or maybe not so fortunate, to have done in my Coast Guard career. Maybe we'll just deem one of these, like we'll try and do them once a month or something like that, where I kind of shake it up and stop talking so much about health and wellness and why, and nutrition and all these kinds of things. And we can talk a little bit more on a personal level of some of the stuff that we have going on. So if you guys liked the episode, please do me a favor and leave a 5-star. It really helps the show grow. If you're into this style or format, definitely like shooting from the hip. I have no idea if people are going to enjoy this or not. Let me know. And we can continue to do these types of things. I'm really excited to have some new guests on over the next couple of weeks. We're also about to premiere a new program. Oh boy, it's probably going to come out next month, the month of July, which is going to be called our Stronger Together program. Really going to be catered towards us working with youth athletes and parents, primarily parents that feel like they've kind of fallen off from where they'd want to be. Youth athletes that are serious about sports, I think, is really key. You know, we I think that the program would be best for youth athletes between the ages of maybe like youngest and maybe like 8 to 10 to like a senior in high school or junior in high school. And really the goal is to like, hey, let's move together, let's become a little bit more athletic, let's train together, and also look into to bridge kind of the gaps in movement and nutrition and just general ability to bond with kids, because I know how difficult from a parent's perspective in chatting with some of the people that we work with now. Obviously I don't have kids, but in chatting with some of the people that we work with, they find it pretty tough to find a way to bond with kids after they're in that like kind of teenage phase. So, training together, doing some of these like challenges that we're going to have in this program, I think is going to be a really great way to minimize that, even reduce some of the screen time that kids are having over the course of a day. So that's what we're looking to do here shortly. Stronger Together, be ready. Let us know if you guys have any questions about that program. And I think that's all I've got for you. Got to get ready. We're going to go over to a birthday party this afternoon for a friend, making some pizza, I think, and maybe having a drink or two, and just kind of hanging out and enjoying my last month or so here in California with this community of people. So without further ado, you don't stop playing because you get old. You get old because you stop playing. And we'll see you guys next time. Later.